For this practice that really stretches the lower body, you'll need a pair of blocks and a strap. Starting at the front of your mat in Tadasana mountain pose. Inhale to circle, sweep the arms. Exhale, bringing the palms to heart center. Inhale, arms out, around and up. Exhale, back to heart center. Inhale, circle sweep, hands to heart center, perhaps setting an intention for your practice today. And as we add on, we'll circle sweep the arms, and then exhale to swan dive out over the legs. From here, we'll grab opposite elbows, pendulum swinging the body from side to side in ragdoll. And as we release the elbows, we'll reverse swan dive, arms out, around, and up, joining the palms at heart center in Anjali Mudra. Inhale, circle sweep. Exhale, swan diving out over the legs, forward fold. Inhaling, halfway lift, hands to shins or thighs. Exhale, bowing out over the legs. Inhale, reverse swan dive. Exhale, mountain, Tadasana. Inhale, circle sweep, lifting the heart. Exhale, bowing out over the legs. Inhale, halfway lift, lengthening from tailbone to the crown of the head. Exhale, bowing deeply into the legs. Reverse swan dive, pushing the ground away, closing at Tadasana mountain pose. Inhale, circle sweep, lifting the heart. Exhale, swan diving out over the legs. Halfway lift, drawing the kneecaps up the quads. And as we fold, we'll step down into all fours, hands and knees, shoulders over wrists, hips over knees, flowing through cat and cow. Inhaling as we lift the heart. Exhaling, tucking the tailbone. Inhale, gazing up softly. Exhale, looking back at the space between the knees or the thighs. Inhale, belly fills. Exhale, drawing the belly button toward the spine. Inhale, shoulder blades down and back. Exhale, pushing the ground away. Then making our way back into neutral, stepping the knees a little wider apart so we can inhale the right arm high up to the sky. And then exhale, twist and thread. Inhale, lengthening up. Exhale, sliding that arm through as far as it wants to go. Getting some rotation through the back as we gaze up toward the sky and then thread the needle all the way through. Inhaling to reach. Exhaling. As we thread the needle, we'll pause here. One more time up to the sky. Exhale, threading the needle. Pausing here, left arm can extend forward toward the front of the mat. Left leg back with toes tucked under if that feels good. And then returning to the center for the second side. Right hand under the face, left arm up to the sky. Exhale, thread the needle. Inhale, expand and open. Exhale, twist and thread. Inhale, spread your wings. Exhale, threading the needle. Feeling that space across the collarbones, and then stretching through the back of the shoulder blades. And then holding this one, we'll reach the right arm forward toward the front of the mat, right leg back with toes tucked under if that feels good. And then bringing the knee back down to the mat, coming into all fours so we can tuck under the toes, lift knees and hips for downward facing dog, Adho Mukha Svanasana. Maybe we pedal out the heels, just slowly bending one knee at a time, as the opposite heel melts down toward the ground. Feeling the upper arms wrapping in toward the face, spreading the fingers wide, tailbone reaching up toward the sky, creating that length through the back, space in the shoulders. And then let's walk the feet to the hands in standing forward fold. Inhaling, halfway lift, hands to shins or thighs. Exhale, folding deeply into the legs. Reverse swan dive, arms out, around and up. Exhale, Tadasana, mountain pose. Inhale, circle sweep, lifting through the heart. Exhale, diving deeply out over the legs. Inhale, halfway lift, drawing the belly in for support. As we fold, we'll step the right leg way back into a lunge, knee down on the mat. We can bring a block under either hand, opening up the hip flexor on the right leg, and then rocking back into half split, lengthening the spine, stepping the blocks in closer. Inhaling forward into lunge. Just letting the hips relax into the stretch. Walking the blocks back as we lengthen the front leg, pressing the toes into the mat on this one. Then keeping the toes down, we'll shift forward into a lunge, blocks out of the way as we transition back into downward facing dog. We could stay here or coming forward into kneeling plank, lowering down to the belly. Inhaling for a gentle cobra, and then exhaling back into child's pose. With our toes tucked under, we'll sit back on the heels, letting the bottoms of the feet have a nice stretch. Maybe interlacing the fingers behind the back, sweeping the hands over to the right side of the waist as we lean the head to the right. Stretching through the left side of the neck, and then bringing the head back up to center, chest expansion again. Let's sweep our hands over to the left side of the waist, leaning the head to the left, stretching the right side of the neck. Coming back to center, releasing our chest expansion, walking the hands forward so we can return to downward facing dog. Right leg extends high up to the sky for three-legged dog. And then bringing that foot all the way through between the hands, back knee down, finding a block with each hand, leaning into our lunge. And then exhaling back into half split, walking the blocks back, lengthening the leg, toes looking up toward the sky, stretching that hamstring. Inhaling again forward into the lunge, feeling the release in the hip flexor on the left side. Shoulders melting, stepping those blocks back, lengthening the front leg. This time we'll press the toes into the mat on half split, maybe feeling that stretch through the front of the ankle. Shifting forward into the lunge, tucking under the back toe so we can step forward, standing forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, folding deeply into the mat. Reverse swan dive, arms out, around, and up, closing at Tadasana, mountain pose. Inhale, circle sweep, lifting through the heart. Exhale, bowing deeply out over the legs. Inhaling, halfway lift, feel those hamstrings giving way. As we bow out over the legs, we'll step the left leg way back into a lunge, dropping the back knee, bringing in our blocks. We can melt the shoulders down away from the ears. As we bring our right block back tall by our hip, we'll reach our left arm up to the sky, laterally flexing toward the right, leaning gently on that tall block, stretching through the left side of the waist, maybe a little deeper through the hip flexor. And then as we come back down to the mat and find our low blocks, this time when we rock back into half split, we'll bow deeply out over that leg, just as far as the torso wants to go down toward the ground. As we come forward into our lunge again, rotating over to the right. Maybe the left elbow wants to wedge outside of the knee, right arm up to the sky. Enjoying a nice deep twist to the back. Continue to lengthen from tailbone through the crown of the head, breathing full and deep. As we unravel, pushing our blocks out of the way, planting the hands, shifting back into downward facing dog. Inhaling forward, high or kneeling plank. Exhale, chaturanga. Inhale, cobra or up dog. Rolling over the toes for downward facing dog. Bringing the feet in to touch each other. Dropping the knees, pointing the toes, sitting back on the heels, really stretching through the front of the ankles and the shins. Let's give ourselves a hug with the right arm on top, moving into Garudasana, eagle arms. Maybe rounding the back to stretch a little deeper through the upper back and the back of the shoulders. Lifting back up, unraveling the arms. Giving ourselves a hug with the left arm on top, staying there, finding Garudasana, eagle arms. Once again, rounding through the back, making some space, releasing some tension with each breath. As we lift back up and release our eagle arms, we can bring our hands to the ground behind us, fingertips pointed forward, maybe rocking back, lifting the knees, deepening the stretch on the ankles. And if we would like, lifting the hips, coming into a gentle back bend. As we lower the hips back down to the heels, stepping the hands forward, tuck toes, lift knees and hips, downward facing dog. Inhaling the left leg high up to the sky, three-legged dog, stretching the hips. And on our exhalation, we'll bring knee to nose, foot between hands, back knee down onto the mat. Bringing our left hand to a tall block close to our hip as we lift up and laterally flex to the left. Feeling a little bit deeper stretch through that right side of the body, the obliques, the hip flexor, through the shoulder, down into the low back. And then inhaling back up to center, grabbing a block with each hand. And this time as we rock back into half split, we'll let the torso melt down to the shin. Breathing deeply as we feel that stretch through the back of the body. As we come back into our lunge, we'll rotate over to the left side. Maybe the right elbow wants to wedge outside of the knee. Left arm up to the sky. Nice deep stretch on the back. Breathing in and out through the nose. As we unravel, bringing our hands down so we can step forward, standing forward fold. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, melting into the legs. Reverse swan dive, arms out, around, and up. Exhale, Tadasana, mountain pose. Inhale, circle sweep. As we catch our left wrist, we'll side bend over to the right. Feeling those feet equally rooted into the ground. Opening the heart. Inhaling up to center, catching the right wrist as we pull gently to the left. We can look down, forward, or up, whatever feels good on the neck in this lateral flexion. Inhaling back to center. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, halfway up, making the back flat like a table. Exhale, bowing. We'll step the right leg way back into a lunge. Back knee down onto the mat. As we lean into this crescent lunge, we could stay right here or bending the back knee, catching the top of the foot with the right hand, or finding our strap to stretch the quadricep, the muscles in the front of the thigh. Make sure the knee feels okay in this pose. If not, just leave the foot down on the ground, continuing to stretch in the lunge. Let's release the foot, bringing the blocks on the inside. Just let the left foot move out to the outside of the mat a bit. Perhaps we drop down into elbows for lizard. Noticing here that we really lowered the hips to get deeper into the pose rather than rounding the back. It's nice to make prayer hands and really feel the heart moving toward our prayer hands. Back of the neck long, allowing the hips to open without compromising our posture through our upper body, our spine, and our neck. All that feels a lot more comfortable, and it allows our breath to flow a little freer. As we walk back up to hands, we'll lift up onto the back toe and take our blocks with us around to the long edge of the mat. Our toes face the long edge and slightly in towards each other as we bow into a wide leg forward fold. Our hands can be on the mat, shoulder distance apart, slightly behind our feet, fingertips facing forward. Our arms make chaturanga arms, right angles, gently pressing the mat forward to merge the upper body deeper into the legs. As we inhale and lift the torso, we feel a stretch in the wrists as we keep the heels of the hands planted. And let's grab our blocks, walking back around to the front of our mat in lunge. Stepping back into downward facing dog. Inhale forward, exhale lower. Inhale cobra or up dog. Rolling over the toes, downward facing dog. As we lift our right leg high up to the sky, this time we can bend the knee, letting the foot drop over, generous stretch to the hips, and we'll bring that right foot all the way up between the hands, back knee down onto the mat. And once again, we can stay here in our lunge or bending that back knee, reaching back for the ankle or the top of the foot with the left hand, stretching a little deeper into the quadriceps, the muscles in the front of the thigh. Just making sure the knee feels okay in this pose. If not, we'll release the foot and just relax into the lunge. Let's all release that back foot. As we bring our hands to the blocks, we'll walk them on the inside of the front foot, just inching that right foot out to the side a bit, making some space. If we're choosing to drop down to elbows in lizard, we'll again get there by lowering our hips, not rounding the back. Feeling that length from the tailbone through the crown of the head. Perhaps we make prayer hands and feel the heart lengthening in the same direction as our fingertips. Breathing into the spaces where we're feeling the stretch. Allowing the breath to relax the mind, relax the body. As we lift up onto hands, hands will frame the front foot, stepping forward, standing forward fold. Inhale, lifting up halfway, shoulders down and back. Exhale, fold. Inhale to reverse swan dive, arms out, around and up. Exhale, Tadasana, mountain pose. Inhale, circle sweep, lifting the heart. Exhale, bowing out over the legs. Lifting up halfway, and as we fold, we'll step our left leg back in a short stance, coming into pyramid. All of our toes pointed straight ahead, feeling the 3 points of each foot connected to the mat. A little shift forward of the weight, feeling a deeper stretch through our hamstring. And then let's grab a tall block with each hand, stepping it forward right off our mat. floating the back leg parallel to the ground in a 3-point balance. And we can step our left hand down to the ground. Right hand can grab the top of the foot in diving dancer, bowing deeper into that forward fold, opening up the hips. As we release the foot, we'll step it way back into a lunge, planting our hands, transitioning back into downward facing dog, walking our feet out as wide as our mat, slight turn out in the toes as we walk the hands back, sinking into Malasana, garland pose, nice deep squat. Triceps on the inside of the knees, prayer hands at heart center. Again, lengthening the spine, opening up the heart, slight tuck in the chin. Releasing our prayer hands into standing forward fold, walking the feet in hip distance. First 2 fingers clasp the big toes, bowing deeply into the front of the legs, shoulders away from ears, flexing the biceps as we point the elbows back toward the wall behind us, lifting the kneecaps, lifting the pelvic floor, drawing the belly button in toward the spine. Breathing deep as the crown of the head reaches toward the toes. Releasing our bind, walking our hands forward into downward facing dog, shifting into high plank, Chaturanga Dandasana, cobra or up dog. And as we exhale back into downward facing dog, we'll lift the left leg high up to the sky, bending the knee, letting the foot hook over, open hips, spacious and free. And then bringing that foot all the way up between the hands, we'll step the back foot a little closer in for pyramid on this side. Short stance as the toes point straight ahead, both heels connected to the ground. Those hands can rest on blocks or the mat. And for our balance, we'll grab our tall blocks, stepping them forward off of the mat, floating that back right leg parallel to the ground, toes looking down at the center of the mat, feeling that length from the tailbone through the crown of the head in 3-point balance. Let's bring our hands to the mat. Left hand grabs the top of the foot for diving dancer, opening the hips, balancing, steadying ourselves on our mat. And as we release that foot, we'll find standing forward fold at the top of our space. Inhale, halfway lift. Exhale, deep fold. Inhale, reverse swan dive, taking up all of the space around us. Exhale, mountain pose. Inhale, circle sweep, lifting through the heart. Exhale, bowing deeply out over the legs, letting the back round at the bottom. Inhale, halfway lift, flat back. As we plant our hands, we'll step back into downward facing dog. Inhale, forward to plank. Exhale, lower. Cobra or up dog. Rolling over the toes, downward facing dog. As the right leg lifts up to the sky, we'll again bend the knee, let the foot drop over, lifting up on our standing toes so we can flip our dog. Little back bend here, stretching through the front of the body. Strong core brings us back into 3-legged dog, where we bring the right knee to the right wrist, coming into pigeon. Lifting the heart, opening through the front of the body. Continue to roll the left hip forward, drawing the right hip back. Breathing deeply into the places where we're feeling the stretch, allowing the breath to just melt the muscles away from the bones. As we let our weight fall over to our right side, we'll swing the left leg around front, crossing it on top into fire log. And if that doesn't feel good, just let it rest on the mat out in front in Sukhasana, easy pose. Perhaps hinging slightly forward from the hips, deepening that stretch through the left side. Flexing our foot helps to keep the knee happy, lengthening the spine from tailbone through crown of the head, deepening the stretch, keeping our airway open. And then as we lift up tall, we'll stack the knees into cow face, bringing our left arm up to the sky and then down to the opposite shoulder blade. Right arm sweeps down and back. We could use our strap. We could let our hands just rest wherever we reach, or perhaps we're locking our fingers together. In Gomukhasana, cow face pose, we feel the stretch in our shoulders, our hip, keeping our joints happy as we maintain those slow, full, deep breaths. And releasing our bind, unraveling our arms slowly, uncrossing the legs as we bring the hands out in front, stepping back into downward facing dog. Option to flow through a vinyasa. And when we get back to downward facing dog, left leg floats to the sky in three-legged dog, bending the knee, foot hooks over, pivoting on our standing toes as we flip the dog, opening up through the front of the body, breathing deep into the belly. Strong core brings us back into three-legged dog, where we'll bring the left knee to the left wrist, sliding back into pigeon. We'll keep our chest lifted in this pigeon pose, working that shin closer and closer to parallel to the front of the mat if that feels okay on the knee. Deepening the stretch on the hip while protecting our joints. Shoulders far away from the ears. Heart lifted, neck long. And then letting our weight fall over to the left side, we'll swing the right leg around front, stacking our shins in fire log. In this pose, the shins are parallel to the front of the mat, so ankle stacks over knee, the other knee stacks over the ankle, feet flexed to protect the knees, hinging slightly forward while maintaining length in the spine. And if this doesn't feel good on the knees, Sukhasana easy pose with the leg on the ground out in front instead. As we lift up tall, we'll stack the knees, drawing the feet in closer to the hips in Gomukhasana, cow face pose. Bringing the right arm up, finding the opposite shoulder blade, left hand down and back. We could use our strap, we could let our hands just be wherever they want to be on our back, or maybe we are able to catch our hands. In Gomukhasana, cow face pose, we can lean slightly forward if that increases the stretch. Just continuing to breathe deeply in and out through the nose, letting go of the struggle, letting go of the strain, finding the ease in the pose. Let's unravel our arms, uncross the legs, sliding the hips forward, bringing our props within reach. As we roll down onto the back, we can place a block beneath our head if that's comfortable. And as we find our strap, we'll loop it around the bottom of the right foot. Left leg stretches out long on the mat, drawing our right leg in only as close as we can with our knees still straight. Pressing out through the heel, pressing the hip, the glute down into the ground. stretching through the hamstrings, the muscles in the back of the thigh. We'll hold both ends of the strap in our same side hand, right hand, or if we want to reach for that foot, we don't have to use the strap. Opening the right leg up to the outside. Left hand on our hip, just to remind us to keep that hip grounded down into the mat. If the hip lifts up, we'll instead lift the right leg a little higher. Breathing into that stretch, into the adductors, the inner thighs, and the inner part of the hamstring. As we sweep that leg up to center, we'll grab the strap with our left hand, or we can hold on to the foot, guiding that leg across the body into a twist, reaching and looking in the opposite direction, out to the right side. Just working that right shoulder down into the ground. If the straight leg twist is a little intense, we could instead bend the knee. Feeling all that space through the right side of the body, the shoulder, the side of the waist, the back, the hip. We'll inhale that leg back up to center, and then placing our left foot in the strap, moving on to the second side, right leg out long on the mat. Drawing the left leg in only as close as we can with our knee straight. Drawing the toes toward the shin, pressing out through the heel, and feeling the left hip and glute anchor down into the ground. Lengthening through the spine as well as through the hamstring. Let's hold on to the strap or the foot with the same side hand, left hand. As we open up to the outside, we could place our right hand on our hip, just reminding us to keep that hip firmly down on the mat. If that hip lifts, we just instead lift the left leg a little bit higher in order to keep the hips grounded, which helps to keep our back neutral, which is better for our back, and it also helps us stretch a little deeper in the muscles that we're working on stretching. As we lift that leg up to center, let's grab the strap or the foot with the opposite hand, the right hand. Moving into our twist, leg over to the right, gaze and reach to the left. As we relax into the twist, we'll let that left shoulder stay down on the mat. We can always bend the knee in our twist instead if that allows us to keep the shoulders a little more grounded. Just finding the place that's just right for us. Relaxing the mind, relaxing the body. And as we lift that leg straight up to center, we'll stretch it out long on the mat, preparing for our last and most important pose of Shavasana, final relaxation. As the legs stretch out long on the mat, the toes fall out to the sides. As the arms lengthen by the sides, we'll turn the palms face up, open to receive. Eyes closed, breath soft, shallow, and quiet. Allowing the body to find stillness so that the mind can follow and find peace. And as you begin to bring yourself back, wiggle the fingers and the toes. Reach the arms back overhead, circling wrists, circling ankles. After a full body stretch, bend the knees, roll onto the right side, head resting on the arm, hand in front of the chest. And then slowly pressing yourself up to a comfortable seat, crossing the legs out in front, hands to heart center. I thank you for sharing your time with me today. Namaste.